All right. So I want to do a quick, just a quick one. And this is inspired by something I saw. It's been kind of like stuck in my head a little bit. Um, it's very on topic about some of the things I've been thinking about with social media and how do I use social media for Parinama without it being about myself. And the meme was the world is comprised of two types of people, givers and takers. And there was something that was it was kind of like basically the takeaway is the position of the meme was that like takers get all the stuff and then the givers sleep well at night. And just this, like, kind of polarized notion of both giving and taking. And so for folks who have read the chapter and are familiar with it, may not be surprising, like, how I'm gonna respond to this, but I'm gonna assume you haven't, and I'm gonna talk to you from the position of the basics of the 4th hub, which is, where we're where we're in right now. We're at page 159. And so and I'm just gonna read there's, like, one really short little paragraph as it relates to kind of connecting this, and then the basics really get into it. And so in my as I've mentioned before, that part of the value of using what I'll call, like, science and, what I call also logic, I guess what anybody would, in the development of Parinama is that the thing about science and, not with its, like, merits and shortfalls, of course, but the thing about science is that to measure something, you need to come up with some level of precision around how you're going to define things and, in order to measure them. And it has to do with the repeatability of of whatever you're doing, like, be it an experiment as an example, is that its repeatability is ultimately its ultimate validation. So with that being said, that it's like how it's conducted has to be able to be replicated. So, with attunement in the 2nd hub, when I found the study the Taiwan long-term study and with a grouping of folks who were tracked for their brain size, as it related to attunement, that discovery of measuring attunement was it was like this eureka. There's a couple moments that I don't know that, I'll, ever forget about moments in the development where it's like, "Oh my gosh, this is just, like, really feels like seeing something for myself for the first time and having clarity about something really important." And so that had to do with defining what attunement was after it had been so clearly stated in, like, infinite developmental theory and, of course, in the Bessel van der Kolk book that if you had not experienced, like, emotional attunement with a caregiver, that it just was basically like you were sort of, like, marked, for life, and with no explanation of what that is. Like, it's kinda like they show videos. Like, a lot of the stuff is, like, it shows videos, and there's videos of the studies where mother will go, like, "Goo, goo, goo, goo," and the baby goes, "Goo, goo, goo, boo," back, and then it's like, that's attunement, and it's like, you watch it and you kind of get it, But then on the other hand, it's like, okay, well, if we're gonna turn this into a somatic practice, we really want to, like, understand how to bring that type of, like, movement, like, into ourselves. So that movement, is like catch, it's movement, which is, like, synchronizing and tuning into other people, and, a few other things. But anyway, so in the 4th hub, I was really interested in kind of like the variables of like kind of deconstructing love. So it's like, where it's like, I love you. What does that mean? And even what it means, to love something or someone, specifically someone will say. And so that was one of the interesting things about create like the development of this, of like watching, kind of doing the work in this, and also as it kind of clarified itself as an insight. And and it really came down to a principle, which is like love is being in like a homeostatic balancing dynamic where there's like active give and take, receiving and generosity. And and it's kind of like back to the thing of the meme where it's like, well, people who take are receivers and people who give are generous, right? But actually, if you look at one of the huge practices that's like widely like heralded in the self-development and even like to a certain extent maybe the new age space is a gratitude practice. And gratitude is really at its core about expanding your capacity to receive with conceivably with, like with some level of joy, but it's receiving what you have, because the truth of the matter is if you can't receive what you already have, like the idea that you're getting more stuff is going to be the solution for it is like another road to nowhere, because you're not going to really be able to feel that stuff for very long, and if anything it'll create more kind of like psychological discontent about the level of what you have, but the sense of fulfillment or the sense, like it's just, I mean, it's, when people talk about, it's like, the kind of, kind of trite colloquialisms about, it's like it's not about what you have, it's what you appreciate or whatever, or blah blah blah. But so the science as it relates to love is showing up. It's showing up. And so, to and this is actually just something where it's like the different scientific, what I'd almost call like biological points of reference for what love is, like the heartbeat and the lungs, the intake of air, and that the blood circulates like this like, and it's like an energy center, like literally like an electrical pump. And that what it's doing is it's constantly intaking and giving. And that homeostasis is a point that we never occupy. Like it's basically like when you have your thermostat at, however many degrees, it's like you're never like you're always kind of floating in and through it, but like adjusting. So it's like the system is always like shutting down, pumping it up, shutting down, pumping it up, and responding to the conditions, the outside temperature that's pushing on it. So it's this thing about showing up. It's just about presence. It's like really anti-perfection. It's like the ability to continue to show up for something specifically for yourself. We're going to start with. And that the heartbeat is, and that like this it's like that your breathing and your heartbeat together are synchronized on the same function, are just continuous in terms of their ability to show up in whatever like to the best of their ability, right? To the best of their ability. And the other part is that it's a giving and taking. And so to love, so it's like, okay, well, what are we doing with this piece of information? It's understanding that to love something is to show up for it. We show up for the things that we are capable of loving. Like that the verb aspect of love is showing up to the best of your ability, especially when that ability is like not great. It's going to expose vulnerability. It's going to like you're showing up your absolute outer limits rather of capability. So, and then it's the exchange of give and take. And what this means as far as loving is concerned and expanding the capacity in this hub, and this can be experienced in breathing. We do this in breathing exercises to explore this is is finding where there's the most ease and there's the most like activation in the cycle. So this is going to be short, so I'm going to wrap it up. But the point being is that the thing of like givers and takers and moralizing that is like givers are nice people, but then in other versions, givers are, you know, codependents that need to like, it just, it's like one of those things where like all truth contains paradox, is that it's like the idea of like which one would be better is like just, so again, it's like these polarities, like good guy, bad guy kind of thing, where it's like we're both. And especially when it comes to the giving and taking, is that for like sustainability in anything, there needs to be some form of a balance in it. I mean, so, and we get much more into this here, but I'm going to just read this here and then I'm going to wrap this up. So, basics. So this is just the introduction to basics, and then we get on to give generosity. So this is the hub of give and take, of gratitude and generosity as a homeostatic dynamic, like inhaling and exhaling. In between the two, sustainable relationships are possible. Inhaling is an activating intake of air, and exhaling releases and softens. If we feel as if we're holding our breath, showing up and staying in a relationship is unsustainable. When we can love ourselves and others, our give and take is balanced and our connections are sustainable. We can only pour ourselves into something without receiving, or take without giving back for so long before the balance shifts and corrects itself. To build sustainable connection, we must balance our needs and wants with the wants and needs of others. Showing up is easy when it feels good, but showing up imperfect and even incapable is how we grow. It's how consistent devotion obliterates the soul crushing notion of perfectionism. Showing up when it sucks, that is love. But there's nuance to consider. Things shouldn't suck most of the time. Staying with someone or something when it gets hard is different than tolerating abuse or subpar treatment. So once again, there's nuance. Can't get away from it if we're going to actually get into the real stuff. That's like what that, yeah. I think that's a good ending point on this. So anyhow, as promised, short. It's hopefully sweet. Maybe. So maybe sweet. Here, I'll sweeten it up with a little bell. Sweet. Okay. So sending you off with lots of love and appreciation. Thank you for any interaction. It's really encouraging, like likes, comments, everything. It means a lot. and, I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Alright, bye for now.